The first encounter. The Galactic Council had seen thousands of worlds, cataloged millions of species, and weighed the threat level of every intelligent civilization they encountered. To the seasoned eyes of the Council's xenobiologists, humanity seemed almost laughably unremarkable. Their bodies were soft, lacking natural armor or scales. Their teeth were blunt compared to the fangs of carnivorous races. Their claws were absent entirely. Their skin was vulnerable, tearing easily in comparison to the hides of predators cataloged across the stars. From the first wave of scans, humans appeared to be fragile omnivores, scavengers at best, opportunists at worst. It was only natural, then, that the Council classified Earth as a Category low-risk species. The official report, filed and forgotten by most, summarized with clinical detachment. Humans, bipedal primates. Adaptive, but non-threatening. Survival achieved through rudimentary cooperation and luck. The humans themselves had no idea they were being judged. The first contact mission was led by the cunning, a scholarly crystalline species who specialize in observation rather than combat. They were curious, not fearful, when their survey craft descended into Earth's atmosphere. The cunning had studied human cities and technologies from orbit and were perplexed by contradictions. Crude compared to galactic standards, yet somehow effective. They chose to land in what humans called North America, during a season the locals referred to as autumn. The cunning expected to find humans tending farms, trading goods, or perhaps engaging in ritualistic warfare. Instead, their drones captured a scene that froze them in their translucent forms. A man crouched in the marshlands, dressed in patterned clothing that broke his outline against the reeds. In his hands, he held a strange, elongated device. Metal, wood, and optics blended together. Above him, a flock of birds wheeled in the sky, their wings flashing against the morning light. The cunning drones recorded as the man raised the device, steadied it against his shoulder, and squeezed. A thunderous crack split the silence. One of the birds folded mid-flight, spiraling down to splash into the water. The cunning delegation watched, unblinking, as the man calmly reloaded and fired again. Another bird fell. The flock scattered in panic, but the hunter's eyes followed them, predicting their arcs, adjusting, striking once more. 3 birds lay still by the time the flock had vanished beyond sight. The cunning scientists were horrified. They can strike a target moving faster than 10 wing beats per second from the ground. One whispered through crystalline vibrations. Not even the RYLK predator cast could achieve such precision. It was not merely the act of killing that stunned them. It was the method. Most intelligent species that had reached spaceflight abandoned predation. They harvested, cultivated, or synthesized food to actively stalk, track, and slay creatures for sustenance, or worse, for pleasure, was considered primitive, even barbaric. Yet here was a human, doing it with a calm focus that suggested long practice. The cunning expanded their study, hoping the man was an outlier. What they discovered instead deepened their unease. In mountain ranges, humans with bows pursued horned beasts across rocky cliffs. In deserts, they tracked lizards and rabbits by faint prints in the sand. In icy waters, they speared fish through holes carved in the frozen surface. Everywhere the cunning looked, humans hunted. They didn't rely on speed, fangs, or brute force. They relied on patience, on tools, on understanding their prey's weaknesses and exploiting them with ruthless efficiency. One observation chilled the delegation more than all the others. A tribe of humans was recorded performing what they called a persistence hunt. For hours, they chased a 4-legged beast across open savanna. The creature was faster, stronger, and better built for the environment. But the humans did not relent. They jogged, tracked, flushed it from cover, and ran again. Slowly, steadily, the beast faltered. Exhaustion killed what claws and horns could not defend. The lead cunning researcher concluded in her notes, "This species cannot match its prey in physical strength, nor in natural weaponry. Instead, it weaponizes endurance, strategy, and cooperation. The prey's muscles fail. The humans do not. Back aboard their vessel, the delegation debated heatedly. Perhaps it is cultural, suggested one. An ancient ritual kept alive beyond its need. No, countered another. We have recorded hundreds of individuals across continents. Hunting is not a relic. It is intrinsic. It is their nature. But why continue such behaviors? Asked a third. They no longer require this for survival. They manufacture food. The lead researcher answered in a tone that resonated with unease. Because it is not only survival for them. It is practice, refinement. They perfect their ability to stalk, to strike, to kill, even when they have no need. Silence fell across the crystalline chamber. For a long moment, none dared voice what they were thinking. Finally, one spoke the words all were circling around. If they can do this to a bird, fast, wary, and airborne, what else can they do? What happens when their prey is us? The Archani returned to the Galactic Council with their recordings. At first, the Chamber of Delegates laughed. The video of a man shooting bird from the sky was passed around as an oddity. Fragile humans, apex predators? Impossible. But as the Archani played more footage of persistence hunts, of coordinated drives, of humans crafting weapons designed to reach prey at distances unthinkable, the laughter died. The hall grew quiet as the Archani's final words echoed across the assembly. You see weakness in their soft flesh. You see fragility in their lack of claws. But you miss the truth. They hunt not in spite of their nature, but because of it. To them, no creature is beyond reach. Not the bird in the sky. Not the beast of the plains. Nothing. The council, for the first time in centuries, felt the cold grip of unease. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was a predator. And predators had no limits. The predator's mind. The recordings of human hunters spread across the Galactic Council like wildfire. By the end of the week, nearly every delegation, warriors, scholars, merchants, had reviewed the footage. The council chambers, normally filled with the hum of translators and the low murmur of debate, now vibrated with tension. The Archani delegation stood at the center, their crystalline forms glimmering under the chamber lights, as alien after alien pressed them for answers. Why do they persist in such savagery? Demanded a towering reptilian general of the Drin war clan, his scaled fists slamming against the table. My people stopped hunting once we forged steel. What possible reason do they have to keep killing lesser beasts? The Archani lead researcher projected new images into the chamber. A group of humans in orange vests trekking through snowy woods. They carried rifles, moved in formation, and paused often to scan the ground for tracks. They hunt, the researcher explained, because they choose to, not from hunger, not for necessity, from will. The chamber erupted in disbelief. To the gathered species, predation was a stage left behind long ago. It was an instinct surpassed by culture or suppressed by moral codes. Even the warrior species, the Drun, the Kreth, the Marketh, only fought when needed for territory or honor. To hunt purely for the experience was alien to them. As more evidence accumulated, patterns emerged. Human hunting was not random violence. It was methodical, structured, and endlessly varied. One recording showed a group of humans in camouflage lying prone in tall grass, unmoving for hours, waiting for a herd of grazing beasts to lower their guard. Another captured tribespeople with nothing but wooden spears encircling a wild boar, communicating with shouts and hand signals until the creature was trapped. But the most startling footage involved what the humans called bow hunting. A man with a curved stick and string loosed an arrow silently into the night, striking a deer through the heart at a distance no alien predator could hope to achieve. No noise, no warning, only the strike of death from the shadows. The Archani explained what troubled them most. Humans hunted not only across terrains, but across scales. Birds in the sky, fish in the sea, beasts in the forest, insects burrowed in the earth. Nothing escaped their attention. The council's xenopsychologists began to draw conclusions. Most predators, one stated, are specialists. The falcon hunts only in the air. The shark hunts only in the sea. Even our own ancestors had limited prey ranges. But humans, they hunt anything. Their psychology is not bound by environment. Another added gravely. It is not only the hunt itself. It is the preparation. They study prey. They learn its habits, its weaknesses, its escape routes. To them, killing is an act of knowledge as much as force. The council grew uneasy. Questions multiplied. Why? Asked a nervous envoy of the small avian quarry. Would a species invest so much thought into the death of creatures weaker than themselves? What does it gain them? The Arcani had anticipated the question. They played a recording of an interview conducted with a human hunter. The alien translators struggled with the man's relaxed, almost cheerful tone as he answered. It's about the challenge, the patience, the respect for the animal. You're not just out there to kill, you're there to earn it. You match yourself against nature. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed. Either way, you learn. To the humans, it seemed natural. To the council, it was chilling. A warrior race might fight when cornered. A predator species might kill when hungry. But humans pursued prey not for need, but for practice, for growth, for enjoyment. They honed the act of killing not as a necessity, but as an art. The word spread through the chamber like a contagion. Practice. The council convened a simulation, curious to test these findings. They programmed a scenario. A human hunter dropped onto an alien world with no weapons beyond primitive tools. The prey, a six-legged grazing beast with thick hide and powerful horns. The simulation ran over several cycles. First attempt, the human crafted a spear, tested its balance, and failed to wound the beast. It fled. Second attempt, the human tracked the beast for days, learned its grazing patterns, and laid traps. Failure again. Third attempt, the human drove the creature into a marsh, where its heavy body bogged down in the mud. The spear struck true. Success. The aliens observing were stunned. Most predators gave up if the prey escaped once. But humans persisted again and again until knowledge overcame resistance. The realization grew undeniable. Humans were not opportunists. They were not accidental killers. They were deliberate. One alien historian summed it best. Their genius is not in tooth or claw, but in mind. They reforged themselves into the predator required by circumstance. The bird in the air, the beast in the forest, the fish in the sea. Each requires a different hunter. And so the human becomes it. By the close of the session, unease had hardened into fear. The council members knew what it meant to be prey. Prey relied on luck, numbers, or speed to survive. But against a predator who refused to quit, who learned with every failure, who struck from any angle, what defense could there be? For the first time, the council debated not if humans were predators, but what kind of predators they were. The conclusion was stark. Humans were not defined by environment, not defined by weapon, not even defined by need. Humans were predators defined by choice. And that made them something far more dangerous. Giants fall. The Galactic Council had moved from curiosity to unease, and from unease to fear. Yet still, some among them resisted the notion that humans could be a true threat. Precision against birds, persistence against grazers, cleverness with traps, scoffed General Zruvok of the Drune war clan. His scaled tail lashed against the polished stone of the chamber. These are trifles. Small prey. Annoying, yes, but hardly proof they could challenge the true titans of the galaxy. Others murmured in agreement. What predator did not excel at its proper scale? Small creatures had always fallen to larger hunters. The test, they argued, should not be in the tiny or the timid, but in the monstrous. And so, a challenge was arranged. On a distant frontier world, an abandoned colony teetered on the edge of a vast wilderness. Within those forests roamed a creature feared even by advanced species, the Ulthar beast. It stood taller than a transport skimmer, armored in scales harder than ceramic plating. Its claws could shred steel. Its roar had sent colonists fleeing before the world was abandoned entirely. Attempts to cull it had failed, Soldiers armed with plasma casters had been torn apart by sheer bulk and fury. To most species, the ulthar was untouchable, a force of nature, not an animal. The humans, when presented with the challenge, simply asked, "How much time do we get?" The Arcani accompanied them to record the trial. 8 humans descended onto the frontier world, carrying packs of equipment. No tanks, no heavy artillery, no orbital bombardment, only what they could carry themselves. The aliens expected bluster, perhaps bravado before inevitable failure. Instead, the humans did something stranger. They sat, they watched. For days, they studied the ulthar beast. They tracked its movements from afar, mapping its feeding grounds and watering holes. They noted how long it lingered in each place, where its skin folded to allow breath, how it scraped its armored hide against trees to shed parasites. The aliens, observing, grew restless. "Why do they not attack?" muttered a quarry delegate, feathers twitching in agitation. "They are learning," the Arcani answered grimly. On the 4th day, the hunt began. The humans spread out, each taking a role. One scaled a ridge to serve as a spotter, using optics to track the beast's movements. 2 others scouted the terrain, marking paths with strange colored powders. The rest began setting things, pits disguised with branches. Lines of cable stretched between trees. Heavy poles lashed together into frameworks, tipped with sharpened steel. Even small drones buzzed in silence, programmed to dart and distract. When at last the ulthar emerged into a clearing, massive jaws snapping at low trees, the trap was sprung. The humans did not attack directly. They harried it. One shouted, drawing its attention, then sprinted into a ravine. When the beast followed, it stumbled into a pit lined with spikes. It howled, wounded but enraged, tearing free. Another team launched harpoons from handheld cannons. The barbed tips lodged in gaps between its scales. Lines went taut, anchored to trees. The beast thrashed, tearing several free, but slowed just enough for more harpoons to bite deep. The ulthar roared, a sound that shook leaves from branches. Plasma fire from orbit had failed to kill it. Blades had shattered against its armor. And yet the humans pressed on, unflinching. They adapted. Each time the beast broke free, they adjusted their strategy. Nets of steel wire replaced ropes. Explosives collapsed trees across its path. Drones baited it toward weaknesses. Hours passed. The humans grew bloody and exhausted, but they did not stop. At last, with its movements slowed, its breaths ragged, the humans struck the final blow. A single explosive charge, set against the thin fold of skin beneath its jaw where they had observed it cooling itself. The detonation tore upward into the soft brain tissue hidden behind the armored skull. The ulthar staggered, shuddered, fell. The ground trembled as its massive body crashed to the earth. Silence followed, broken only by the ragged breaths of the hunters. The aliens were speechless. The Droon general who had scoffed earlier now stood frozen, his scales pale with disbelief. Had they killed it, he stammered, with traps? With patience? With nothing but scraps they carried on their backs. The Arcani researcher only nodded, her crystalline body trembling. They killed it because it could be killed. That is the human way. To them, size does not matter. Armor does not matter. Even impossibility does not matter. If it can bleed, they will find a way. The council chamber erupted in clamor. Some delegates argued the humans must be contained before they turned their skills outward. Others shouted for alliances, desperate to secure such hunters as allies rather than enemies. But one truth could not be denied. The humans had proven what no other species dared attempt. They had slain a monster not with overwhelming power, but with patience, cunning, and sheer refusal to surrender. That night, as the Arcani compiled their report, they overheard a human laughing softly with his comrades around a campfire. His words were simple, spoken without malice, but they chilled the crystalline researchers to their core. Big or small, the hunter said, everything has a weakness. You just have to understand it. The Arcani wrote their conclusion with hands that shook like brittle glass. The humans scale their predation endlessly. From the smallest bird to the largest giant, nothing escapes their pursuit. There is no limit to what they may one day decide to hunt. And with that, the galaxy's laughter ended. The humans had brought down a giant. The Apex Declaration. The death of the Ulthar beast reverberated through the Galactic Council like a thunderclap. What had begun as curiosity had turned to laughter, laughter into unease, and unease into dread. For centuries, the Council had ruled with certainty. Every new species encountered was weighed, classified, and placed neatly into the galactic order. Some were allies, some were competitors, many were prey. But humanity did not fit into any of these categories. They had brought down prey of every size, from fragile birds to towering monsters. And they had done so not with innate strength, but with will. The council chamber was in chaos. "They are a threat to all stability," cried the insectoid Vree envoy, mandibles clicking in alarm. "Contain their world, before they turn their predation upon us." "Contain them," boomed General Zruvok of the Drun War clan, who only weeks earlier had dismissed humanity as weak. Now his tone carried something dangerously close to respect. "Contain hunters who can bring down beasts we fear to face? That is suicide. Better to make them allies. Let them hunt for us, not against us." "They cannot be allies," shrieked a quarry delegate, her feathers trembling. "Their instincts are too dangerous. They kill for sport, for pleasure. What manner of civilization pursues death as leisure?" Amid the clamor, the Arcani delegation remained silent. They had seen the humans up close. They had watched them laugh around fires after felling a monster that had terrorized entire settlements. They knew both the danger and the strange allure of humanity. At last, the Arcani lead researcher stepped forward. Her crystalline form glowed faintly as she addressed the chamber. "You ask whether they should be contained, or allied with, or destroyed. But you fail to see the truth. None of these choices are truly ours. The humans will not be what we decide. They will be what they choose. That is what makes them predators unlike any we have known." The council demanded humanity respond to the charges. And so, for the first time, a human representative was summoned. He was not a soldier, nor a politician, but an older man, broad-shouldered, weathered by sun and wind, with the steady eyes of one who had spent a lifetime outdoors. He walked into the chamber without fear, as though standing before 1,000 alien eyes was no more daunting than walking into a forest at dawn. "Your kind kill for food, for dominance, for territory," the quarry delegate accused him immediately. "But you kill when you have no need. Why? Why practice death when survival no longer demands it?" The man's voice was calm, deliberate. "Because killing teaches us life. The hunt teaches patience, endurance, respect. To hunt something greater than yourself is to learn what it means to be alive, and to learn that everything, no matter how strong, can fall." The chamber stirred uneasily at his words. "You admit you kill for pleasure?" pressed the insectoid Vree, clicking angrily. The man shook his head. "No. We kill from mastery. Of ourselves. Of our world. We hunt because it sharpens us. Because if we can stalk a bird in the sky or a beast that towers over us, then we can face anything, even the impossible." There was a silence in the chamber that seemed to stretch forever. Many species found the words incomprehensible. Others found them terrifying. But among the warrior races, the Drun, the Kreth, even the cold-blooded Marketh, something else stirred. They recognized the truth in his voice. For warriors, battle was necessity. For predators, the kill was survival. But for humans, the hunt was something more, a declaration that they would not accept limits. Later that night, a secret meeting was held. Delegates argued long into the darkness. The proposal on the table was unlike any before, to designate humanity not as prey, not as competitor, not even as simple predator, but as apex. The word carried weight. An apex species was not bound by scale, not bound by need. They were those rare beings who could not only survive against the galaxy's titans, but who could choose to seek them out. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity was reclassified from low risk to strategic apex threat. The announcement was delivered formally the next day in front of the full council. The Arcani researcher read the declaration, her crystalline tones clear and resonant. To the assembled species of the Galactic Council, let it be known, the humans of Terra are to be recognized as apex predators. They may stalk the smallest of prey or the greatest of beasts. They adapt, they learn, they endure. Their limits are not defined by biology, but by will. To provoke them is to invite the gaze of hunters who do not quit. To ally with them is to stand beside those who fear nothing. The galaxy must remember this. From birds to giants, nothing escapes their pursuit. The human representative, hearing the verdict, simply nodded. He did not gloat. He did not threaten. He only said, "Now you understand." And with that, he left the chamber. In the weeks that followed, every species in the galaxy re-examined their view of humanity. Some sought treaties, others built walls. A few whispered of preemptive strikes, but none dared act. For even the suggestion of war with humanity carried a chilling thought. If humans could hunt anything, could they not also hunt civilizations? Far away, on the blue planet called Earth, hunters rose before dawn as they always had. They walked into forests, mountains, and seas. They stalked birds, deer, and fish. Not for hunger, not for need, but because it was who they were. The galaxy now knew it, too. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was apex.